Isn't my new plant pot beautiful? He's been living in a jar for months, but now I'm looking at it. Beautiful pot, beautiful color, beautiful texture. Just a beautiful home for a beautiful plant. He does not have a name, accepting recommendations or prospective names. Yeah. So, what a way to start. And not only that, the segue. What does that plant have in common with the topic for today? Nothing. Nothing at all. I want to talk about free access to research papers in the mental health and psychological fields. I want free research. That's a weighted statement because nothing's free. I am in the camp of people that believes that when you say it's free, we want free stuff, free access. It's not a real thing. Somebody has to eat that. And any free service, I think about when you go volunteer, you're volunteering your time, which isn't free in that sense. You're giving up your time to volunteer for something that maybe other people are receiving as a free service, but it is being paid for by someone else. The whole crux of the human race is we pay for things for others. That's not a bad thing. That's just, it costs to exist and to move things forward. It doesn't necessarily mean money, but everything's a trade in some capacity, and that's not this like hyper commercialization of understanding things. It's just a simple fact of life, like just stuff. I just spilled water almost on my crotch. Not quite, just on the chair. All right. Cool. So, point being, research papers being free. Yeah, this is a hard one because I do think that people should be paid for the work that they do, meaning that if people are doing research, it makes sense to be paid as a researcher to do that research. And if the research requires participants, that they be compensated in some way as well. So why then don't I think that the people access? We're cleaning up water while I talk. Why don't I think that people who access the research should have to pay for it? Yeah, that's the hard part. My philosophy around this comes from a belief that access to knowledge should be free. But this free comes from a collective sense. So think about libraries. You can learn a lot at a library. A lot of them have free internet. A lot of them have hundreds and thousands of free books that you have to, check out. There's a process, but it's free. A lot of them, depending on your area, also have DVDs, CDs, video games, even magazines. Some even have art that you can check out. Access to creative spaces and study rooms, and it's all free. The issue is that it is being paid by funders and taxpayers, so it still does cost to use it, but you might not have to. So, my belief around oh, geez, why is it getting so bright in here? Something about starting this video on that plant has dramatically affected the lighting. Whoa. Apologies for how my face looks today. This is what we're doing. So it still costs money, which is why I firmly believe in late fees to the library and them finding ways to make money that doesn't force it on people, that people who need the free resource can still use it. But people who can pay, I believe paying in some capacity is good to help those organizations stay funded and useful. So the access to free research piece, though, this is tough. So my thing is with something I don't do a lot of currently, but I have coming down the pipeline is trainings, and this is not a ad to do a course, but it's something that I'm partnering with people in my community to do trainings, psychological trainings, right? Education. And the idea here is that these trainings will cost and they will include continuing education units so that mental health clinicians can keep their license. However, I plan to do separate versions of those trainings on this YouTube channel for free. And my idea here is that the access to the information is free, but the extra parts of it, like the continuing education unit, and that's what costs. And so there is a line of paying people for their time. I have to be paid to do that event. The person hosting it being paid, paying to record it, for the space. If we offer any snacks at all, that all costs money. So shy of just a completely funded and donor based process, charging for the event makes the most sense. But then how can that information also be free? So I appreciate anyone who puts lectures on YouTube. Harvard does this great. I think MIT is another one where you can just look at a lot of their lectures for free. What costs money is the degree. And I think this works. The areas it falls short on is, well, what's the trade off for research? Someone saying it costs $35 to read a research paper. I don't know why I would spend that much money to read a research paper. So I don't necessarily believe in just a blanket law that makes everything free in the realm of research, specifically for mental health and psychology, but finding unique ways to make this free. And interestingly enough, a lot of these researchers, these professors, just have their studies on their websites for free. Or you can email them and just ask for a copy and they'll send one to you. Now, not everyone's going to do that, but you can go on and pay for these, or you can just get them for free from the people who did the studies. So that's just something to keep in mind. And there's, lots of sites to bypass this that, I don't feel like I should go into because I don't know the allowed nature of all of that. But those things exist where people try to create ways to bypass research fees. But the way that I look at it is collectively we are better when we know more. Having access to information is extremely valuable. So if people can learn about mental health and they really want to take a strong research approach and read research articles, which is not, that's not bedtime reading. That stuff's usually pretty dense and confusing. And if you don't understand uh, how research works and the statistics therein and the measures that they use, it gets confusing. But having it is helpful, and the people who do understand it can sometimes consolidate it and put it into a layman's article. So, yeah, I think finding ways to do this, and again, I don't have the solution because I believe in free access to information, not necessarily education, because again, it's someone's time, but having access to information is one thing. So YouTube is an amazing resource for that. So are libraries, where you can pretty much get any degree that doesn't require experiential work. So, like to be a therapist, I have to practice therapy. To be a surgeon, you actually have to practice surgery. But a lot of things, I mean, I think someone could be an amazing lawyer just from YouTube and reading books. Yeah, you need to get some practice in at some point, but you can do it great. Pretty much every liberal arts degree, you can be better than the professionals, I think, just by learning online. That takes a lot of work still. I don't think you can just be someone Googling stuff and be like, I'm smarter than this expert. Not exactly, but you can essentially get a huge amount of degrees, the equivalent of them in education, just online for the cost of nothing but internet access for the most part, or finding a way to a library. So a lot of careers, just in terms of barrier to entry, don't have one other than learning. And so the more access we can get to information, the easier people can do that. I mean, think about how many people are better cooks or mechanics or even just better at figuring out how to keep their house tidy because they can access YouTube or they can access articles and learn about things, and they don't need to go to culinary school and they don't need to go to these specialized trainings. They can just practice online, and I think it's fantastic. So I'm all for ways to make research more accessible, and maybe there are going to be more ways to do that in the future. I think we are seeing versions of that with online colleges and credit by examination routes for universities. I make a prediction now that I think universities are going to continue a downhill slope, and you're going to see more online universities where you just pay to take the test. You don't actually pay for the courses. I think that is the future, and I'm a pretty big proponent of it. I do think we need solid universities for, like I said before, experiential trainings, but being able to take a literature course and get a literature degree, there's no reason you should be paying $40,000 a year and staying on campus and having to go to all these classes when you can just read the books, study the coursework. The professor can post a YouTube video once every 5 years, especially for history-based stuff where we don't have information that changes that much. Watch the YouTube video and you take the exam when you're ready. Maybe it's a week into the course, maybe it's a year in because you're working a lot. You can't do it, and then you just pay to take the exam, and if you pass, you get the credit. So you can essentially get a degree in 12 years or in half a year if you already just know the stuff and want the degree, and you just pay to exam and you get your degree. So that's just a clever route that some universities are going, and I think more of it is good. And I just look forward to seeing how education and information becomes more accessible. So that's the thought for today. As I said before, accepting plant names in the comments. If you are interested in therapy services, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to connect with you about working together or finding you an option. I love doing that. That's the fun part of the job, getting people connected to the right resource. So, other than that, pay close attention in the coming days for my special that I'm putting out for 100 subscribers. We're going to make a big deal about it because we got there since the last video. So, thank you all. Sitting on 102 right now. I'm attempting a live stream for this if I can get that feature to work properly on YouTube because I'm having hiccups. If I can get it to work, we're doing live stream. If not, we're doing pre-recorded and it'll come out later because of that. So I will look forward to seeing you all very soon, hopefully this week, to celebrate that. See ya.